Hey Torah Sisters, it's Amy K. Gunther from TorahSisters.com. In this video, I want to tell you about a Christian magazine that interviewed me and how the article turned out and things like that and how it can encourage you. But first, don't forget, I have my own magazine, Torah Sisters Magazine, and this issue is all about Passover and unleavened bread. It's available right now, store.TorahSisters.com. Something you'll really love is I have lots of pictures, dozens of pictures. Can you see, of other people's Passover tables from last year to give you ideas of how to decorate? Because right now, all the spring stuff is starting to come out in the stores, especially, the affordable cheap stores like Dollar Tree and Walmart and stuff. So if you want to go get dibs, get ideas from the magazine and then go shopping. It's not too early to start buying stuff. All right, so let me tell you about this. If you, I will link to this in the description below to the article. They put it on their website that they interviewed me and that I, my interview was partly published in. The magazine is called The Christian Century. It's a I guess a mainstream Christian magazine. If you Google Christian Century Amy Gunther or Christian Century Hebrew Roots, you will be able to see it. You can read it for free on their website. And this is not the issue it was in. This is a different issue. So let me tell you the story and how this came about. The article was published about 9 months ago, before Sukkot. And she interviewed me for a year before that. And so her name is Dawn Arujo Hawkins. And she found me on Instagram, of all places. And she said that she's been a writer for this magazine for years. She's some denomination, mainstream Christian. And she stumbled upon Torah Keepers on Instagram. And she found someone else's Instagram, and then they were linking to my Instagram. And then since I have a magazine, she was interested especially in my Instagram channel, and because she writes for a magazine. And so she started clicking links and looking at what I had, and of course I linked to someone else and they linked to someone else. You know how we are. And she realized this is like a whole thing that she had never heard of, and it really got her interested. And so she decided to write a whole article about Hebrew roots. Now, I know some of you don't call yourself Hebrew roots, or you don't identify as that, and that's okay. We'll talk about that in a second, but that's what she titled the article. And, I don't know what we call ourselves. There are many people who I don't agree with who call themselves Hebrew roots, but we're all keeping Torah and we're loving Yeshua. So for her purposes, she called us Hebrew roots. So she reached out to me, and so we spent probably an hour and a half or 2 hours on the phone, and she asked me lots of questions, and I gave her my answers the best I could. And she would not let me, of course, read the article before she published it. Now, was I nervous? Yes, we'll talk about more about that at the end, because I've never been interviewed for something like this before, but I did it anyway. And then it took a year until it came out, which made me even more nervous. You start to remember things that you think you said, or did I say that weird? Did I say that dumb? Did I say it wrong? Worst of all, did I represent the community poorly? Did I represent Yeshua poorly? And I was a bit of a basket case. But what can you do? Because then it's done. So I'll just tell you now, I say that so that when you get nervous, you're not the only one. Some of you think that I just never get nervous because I do YouTube sometimes, and that is not true. I can tell you, we all get nervous. Maybe not all of us, but it's hard when you're put on the spot and people start asking you questions about your faith. Do it anyway. So that's one of the big takeaways. But the other reason I want you to just know about this is because I think it's really interesting that people are still finding out that there is this group of people keeping the Torah, but following Yeshua. We're not Jewish. There's some Jewish people in our communities, but we're not Jewish. So she was very intrigued by that, and she asked so many good questions. All in all, I think the article turned out really well. I think she did a very fair job. She didn't, condone what we're doing, but she didn't diss us either. She was just very matter of fact about the whole thing, just kind of educating her readers on what this is. And I thought that she did a very fine job of that. So Dawn, if you happen to see this, well done. I think you did a great job. She I said, we talked for so long. I said a lot of stuff. She didn't certainly say everything I said. I was only a small part of this article, you guys. This article was not about Amy. It was about this thing that God is doing. It was about this movement, this awakening, this revival that God is doing in these end days. She did tell the brief version of my story of how I came to Torah, because, it's so interesting. And I know my story is similar to a lot of yours. And I did tell her everybody kind of comes about it in a different way, but many of us used to go to church on Sunday. Not all of us. And then here, I'll quote a little bit about what she said. She said, Gunther, this is her quoting me. So I said, Gunther doesn't have a name for her religion. I said, it's just Bible people doing Bible things. Because again, like Hebrew roots, that means different things to different people. So I told her, there's no real official name for this. It's just Bible people doing Bible things. But the Hebrew roots movement, the decentralized, widely variegated communities of people who, like Gunther, both keep Torah and believe Yeshua is the Messiah, is growing. Let me unpack that well-written but wordy sentence. The Hebrew roots movement is growing, first of all, is what she said. I made quite clear that she knew that, which is why she found us finally, and she called it decentralized, which I was very sure to make sure she knows, like there's no man in charge of us. There's no hierarchy. There's no association. We don't send our dues to the head guy. There is no head guy. There's no website or ministry or organization in charge of all these different fellowships and ministries and YouTube channels and so she was very careful to write that it is decentralized and widely variegated, which means just there's a lot of different flavors of us. We don't all agree on everything. So I appreciate that she put that in there. And then she elaborated on those points some more. She also interviewed John Sherman. He's in the article, and he runs 119 Ministries. I was so happy that she connected with him. And she interviewed some other people in our community as well. She talked a lot about how this movement is growing and how there are lots of materials out there, and she was quite surprised at how much is even on TikTok, both for and against it, but still it represents that this is growing. There's a lot of people doing this, and she discusses how what we are doing is not exactly Judaism. She discusses some of the differences, and she also discusses some of the criticisms, which is fair. Overall, I thought it was a very well done article. If you want, go read it. You don't have to, but it's interesting to read from an outsider's point of view. She's not a hater. She's not a lover. She's just like, this is interesting. This is a new thing. I never heard of this. I think the readers of my magazine would be interested. So from that point of view, to hear what she has to say about it, and she did a lot of research. So I think you should go read it because it's interesting. Be careful surfing the rest of their website. Don't get their magazine. It's a very, you'll see. You don't have to go surfing the website. There's a lot on there that we would not agree with. But she did say, I asked her, what kinds of people read this magazine? And she said it's very, this is my word, very heady people. It's a lot of leadership in different denominations. This is not one denomination magazine. It's not a Catholic magazine. It's not they're not a Methodist magazine. She said a lot of church leadership from different denominations get the magazine to try to keep tabs on what's going on in Christianity as a whole. And she said a lot of seminarians, seminary professors, those kinds of people get this magazine to keep tabs on what is happening, again, in the entire Christian realm, which is why if you surf the other headlines on their website, you're going to see a wide variety of stuff. And it's not all biblical, in my opinion. So, but to be included in that so that those people can see that what we're doing is growing, that we're a thing. And I when that magazine article came out, I was praying that some of those seminarians and some of those leadership in different denominations, I don't know if you're like me, but I think there are people in all walks of life, in all kinds of denominations, seeing the truth of Torah. And so somewhere out there had to be some men and women wondering about Torah and wondering, they know the church didn't, or Yeshua, God didn't change the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. They know that's wrong. And maybe the Holy Spirit is pricking their heart. And like, am I the only one that thinks this? Am I the only one that studies the Old Testament feasts and sees Yeshua? And like, why don't we do these? And that there's some of those thinker people who get a thinker magazine like this have been wondering that. And then when she published her article about people who think that way too, I just hope it helped those people who were just wondering to dive in more and to start walking fully in Torah. No one's ever reached out to me from it or anything, but you never know the seeds that were planted. So that's what I pray happens. And then the second thing, again, is just to encourage you, when the Father puts an opportunity in your path, whether small or big or medium, whether easy or scary, just take it. And when you worry about saying the wrong thing, do it anyway. Prepare and do your best. I walked into the interview with notes and stuff, and some scripture references handy, but just do your best. And just know that even if you make a mistake, even if you say something wrong, the Father will still call those to him who he is drawing to him. So the pressure is not completely on you. Don't be a Moses and be like, I am not the girl for the job. And God says, you actually are the perfect person for the job, or I would not have given you the opportunity. So take those opportunities and see what the Father does with it. You'll never know. You'll never know really what happens. But when you take the opportunity and you speak up and you represent him, he can do a lot with that. And I think these opportunities are going to be coming more and more and more. Not like interviews for Christian magazines. That was even a one-time for me too. But in the grocery store, what are those strings on your pants? Or someone asking you, why do you go to church on Saturday? These are opportunities, and we have to take them. So, all right, again, I'll link to the article below if you care to go read it. I'll talk to you later. Bye.